All right. This is interesting. Completely new format for the videos. I honestly have never done anything like this, just talking straight into the camera without scripting my video first, without taking a lot of different takes. The idea behind this new format is not that it's going to replace the old format, but simply that I also wanted to have the opportunity to have a more casual way of expressing my thoughts, expressing what is going on in my head every week, what I'm thinking about, what I want to share with my audience that I have built here on this YouTube channel. So I figured probably the best way to do that is to set up a setting similar to a podcast. I'm not sure if I'm actually gonna turn it into a podcast at some point where you can have it on iTunes or Spotify or whatever. But since I already have this YouTube audience now, I figured this is a good place to start. And there's so many podcasts out there, obviously, who do YouTube, like Joe Rogan and Lewis Howes. Like, there's so many people who do this nowadays. So I really wanted to get the chance to have a way, first of all, to connect with you guys, my audience, in a more personal manner where I really just talk as if we're having a conversation, even though it's a bit one-sided if I'm the only one talking. But also in the future, I'm thinking about having more guests on, maybe have conversations, as I kind of did in the past. If you go back into older videos, you can see that I had events where I talked to guests about personal development, personal growth, in areas that they were experts in. So that's an idea for the future that I might do with this kind of setup as well. But I just felt like there's so many things going on every single week that I would love to talk about with an audience, that I would love to share with people who are also passionate about personal development and growing themselves into a person that they aspire to be. And the setup that I had so far, that I would film a video with a very specific topic and I would share it with you guys, was a start. And I definitely want to keep going into that direction. But it felt a little bit fake, to be honest. It felt a little bit fake because I would take many takes. I kind of wish you guys could see sometimes how long it takes to actually get a 6-minute video done. Like, sometimes I fill 60 minutes of video material and then I have to edit it down and cut it down to the 6 minutes that I actually want to publish. Just because I take so many takes and it's so difficult to get out the message exactly the way I want to get it out. So I take like 20 takes of like one single sentence and I'm not happy with the tonality of the sentence, or I mumble the words, or I get stuck and I forget what I wanted to say in the first place. So all of that makes it a little bit, I feel a little bit like an actor when I put out these videos, and I feel like an actor in a great movie, a movie that I want to get out there for other people to be seen. But still, it feels a little bit like being an actor, and what I want to do through this format, more like a podcast thing, is that I want to be just, you know, like the regular person that I am, and just talking about things that are going through my head. So that's the idea behind this setup. Now, today's Sunday, and my idea was that every Sunday from now on, I will sit down for how long it takes. Probably these videos are going to be longer than the usual videos that I publish. And I'm going to give a little bit of a recap of my week. I'm going to talk about things that I have started implementing into my daily or weekly routines that I think are beneficial, that produce good results for me in whatever direction I want to take my life in. And hopefully you can get something out of it. I mean, that's really all I want to do with this kind of format. I want to share things that I think other people could benefit from. That's pretty much it. And also, of course, I'm a little bit selfish with putting these podcasts out there or these kind of videos because I realized that I am not very good at just holding like these long as monologues kind of. I need to have a script in my head, like I need to have kind of prepared what I want to say in a certain video. And if it just comes to improvising or rambling on a little bit like I'm doing now, then I often get completely lost and I don't even know where I'm going with it. So this is also a chance for me to work on that skill, to keep improving that skill, because I feel like it is a super important skill, especially in the kind of work that I'm aspiring to do and here on YouTube, but really for anyone. I mean, it's so important to be able to express yourself clearly and concisely and be able to connect with the person you're talking to and really get your ideas across in a way that is convincing to the other person. And actually what inspired me ultimately to start a format like this is that I've been listening a lot to Bill Burr. Probably a lot of guys out there, you guys know him. Probably he's I would say the best comedian in the world right now. American dude, has been a comedian for 20 years or even longer, but has really been blowing up like the last 5 years, I would say. And he has a weekly podcast. Actually, he produces 2 episodes every week. One like longer ones on Monday and one on Thursday, where he just checks in on people. And I highly recommend that you check out this dude because he is an absolute genius at what he does, which is basically just talking about his life, talking about his experiences, talking about anecdotes that he wants to share with his audience. And I'm pretty sure none of that is scripted. Sometimes probably he throws in jokes that he has used on stage before. But other than that, it's really just, you know, just telling a story. And he's so incredibly good at that. Like he can talk non-stop for 1.5 hours and you just hang on his lips and you don't want the 1.5 hours to end because he's like every single thing he says is so on point, and you can see that he's been just conditioning himself for basically 2 decades to be able to tell amazing stories like that. I mean, that's what he does. That's what he fills stadiums with, to just share stories with people that people can relate with and that people find funny and amusing. And I've been listening to this guy for a couple of months now, to his podcast. I knew him before, but I was just recently aware that he has this podcast and I've been listening to it. And it just blew me away that it's possible to just improvise like that and still be so entertaining. So long story short, this is kind of what I can't even say like I'm trying to do here, because obviously I will never get to the level where he's at. I mean, this guy has been doing this non-stop for like the last 20, 25 years. So it just takes this enormous dedication to get to the level where he's at right now. But I figured if I can do this and practice this weekly and get to 1/10 of the skill where he's at right now, then I'm already so much better than the average Joe. So this is kind of like the selfish part of what I'm doing here, that I just want to work on that skill. And I mean, I think I mentioned this in previous videos before, briefly. I'm super into public speaking. I've been going to a public speaking club for basically 3 years now, every single week, which is an absolute amazing experience. Not only because you get to work on your own skills, but also you get to learn from the other people who are up there on stage just talking. And you also, aside from the whole public speaking skill part, you just get to know so many people. Like you get to sit down and they tell you stories that are often very private and stories that you wouldn't share with people you are not that close with normally. but just because they are on a stage and they want to connect with the audience, they share that with you, and I just feel like that's a tremendous gift to be given to connect with a person on such a deep level so early on into getting to know them. So the club that I'm going to is called Toastmasters. It's an international organization. Pretty much any big city in the world has a club by now. And I'm living in Stockholm. There are actually, I think, 5 clubs here in Stockholm. Some of them are in English, some of them are in Swedish. I'm going to the English one, the International Toastmasters Club here in Stockholm. I've been thinking about going to the Swedish one just to practice my Swedish, but honestly, I just don't think I'm there yet with my Swedish, and probably it's also a little bit of a comfort zone thing. Like, I feel pretty comfortable talking in English. I feel like my English level is good enough to talk about just anything if I wanted to in front of an audience. But if I talk in Swedish, that would just be a struggle. Like, I would basically have to memorize everything, I think. At some point I'm going to do that, and I'm going to share the experience with you guys, but right now I just don't feel like I'm there yet. But anyway, if you are into public speaking like I am, and if you want to improve on that skill, highly recommend Toastmasters. I think it's the best thing out there. It's a non-profit club as well, so you probably pay a little bit if you go to your local club, just because they have to pay for rent of the room and some other things that are just ongoing costs. But here in Stockholm, I pay like 100, like it's like 1,200 crowns per year, which is, what is that? Like 120 euros, so like $140 or something. Anyway, it's totally worth it. It's like 10 bucks a month. I mean, if that's what it takes to become an amazing speaker and be able to connect with an audience on a deeper level, I think that's a great thing to have. And I know there's a lot of people out there who are super shy about their public speaking. That's why I'm mentioning it. And actually, that's one of the first things I got into when I started working on myself more diligently in my early 20s and starting to get really interested in personal development. I was like, okay, one of the main things that I'm struggling with is connecting with people and being able to communicate the thoughts that I have in my head, communicate them in a way that it actually resonates with people. Because I knew always like what I wanted to say to people in a conversation or in front of a larger audience, but then you always get, you get flustered, you get stuck in your head, you get nervous, you just cannot communicate in a way that you want to and that you actually had it prepared beforehand. So that's a super frustrating experience to not be able to say what you actually wanted to say, and then it comes out wrong and people don't get you. And you're like, damn shit, I knew I could have done that better. I knew I could have said that better. So that's why I got into Toastmasters when I was like 22. And I met a lot of people along the way since I started Toastmasters like 8 years ago, basically, back in Germany, who have this giant fear of public speaking, and they're super nervous when they get in front of an audience. I even read that, I'm not sure if that's true, I don't have like a study or something that I can refer you to, but I heard that people are more scared of speaking in front of an audience than they are scared of dying. Which seems crazy, right? I mean, nobody wants to die. Like, if I had the choice, okay, do you want to die today or do you want to speak in front of an audience? Both are pretty scary and intimidating, but of course people want to live. So of course I would choose the public speaking part. But then I got a little bit more into it and I read a little bit more about public speaking and why people are so scared of that and what that is all about. And it actually goes back to the Stone Age and our evolution, our DNA. That back then, the situation when, that's what I read, like the situation that you have to speak in front of an audience would usually be that you have to justify something to the tribe that you're part of back in the Stone Age. So it was basically a matter of life and death, because you would make a plea for you to be able to stay in the tribe. Like you fucked up something, you did something wrong, I don't know, you killed the wrong kind of guy or something in your tribe, and everybody's pissed at you, and you have to make a case for yourself why you should be able to stay in the tribe and not be kicked out in the wilderness, left by yourself, and basically left to die. So again, I don't know if that's true or if that's like scientific, but I think it makes intuitive sense that if that's what public speaking goes back to, we're super afraid to get into a situation like that, just because if we're not convincing enough, then they're gonna kick us out and we're gonna die. So it really comes down to life or death if we are convincing in front of the audience that we have. And if we fail, then yeah, that's the end of us. So I don't know if that's true, but I think it makes intuitive sense. Sounds quite logical. And yeah, I mean, there's these people saying like, oh, I went to war and I was fighting in several wars. I was a soldier here and there, but I'm even more scared of public speaking. Like I've seen there's interviews of people like that on YouTube, and you can check it out. Anyway, that's my connection to public speaking, and that's why I want to get better at it, and that's why I just love the thrill of it by now, to stand in front of an audience and actually be able to control that feeling, like this wave of panic that washes over you whenever you do public speaking, and you can actually learn how to control it. It will never go away. I think it's a little bit like acting, like on stage in a theater. You will always have this stage fright a little bit before you go on, but you can learn how to control it. And making this kind of podcast, this kind of long format video where I'm just basically rambling is one step towards that for me. And of course, like, I hope that you guys as an audience, you treat this as a podcast. Like, it's Sunday afternoon probably when I upload this. Now it's Sunday morning, and you can just, I don't know, do the dishes or study for an exam or whatever you do on Sundays, have a brunch with your loved ones, and you can just listen to this if you want to. If you want to have my voice in the background, it's not like the kind of video format where you just actually stare at me talking here out of my ass for an hour or however long this video gets to be. So yeah, that's kind of what I'm coming from, and I also realize like the lighting is not perfect. I'm gonna improve on that. This is just a kind of like a prototype of what I want this format to turn into in the future at some point. It gets better and better, hopefully over the course of the time. Right now it's like November here in Stockholm, so there's not really a lot of light. Actually, the last couple of days it's been super cloudy. I haven't seen the sun in basically a week. So I was struggling to set up this camera, find a good angle where I am not completely dark when you look at this video. So I'm trying to find a setup where the lighting is perfect, or at least getting better every time. So this about the podcast and my thoughts about it, why I want to do this, why I think that eventually it's a good idea for the audience and for me, that we both can benefit from this sort of format. I guess I'm just gonna talk a little bit about my last week and the things that I have done in order to improve myself in different areas, things that I'm working on, since I am super into personal development, and since this is what this channel is about, this is probably what you subscribe to, getting information about personal development in different areas. This is what I want this channel to be about, and this is what I feel strongly about. So yeah, I'm gonna talk to you guys a little bit about what I'm actually doing during the week, because I don't feel like I get to share that enough in the videos that I usually make. Usually those are very specific and I don't get to share kind of my whole routine, so to say. So last week I was in Berlin. I'm originally German. Most of you guys probably already know that from previous videos. So I went to Berlin to visit my mom and a cousin of mine. He's 13. They actually don't live in Berlin. They flew in, like my cousin, he's 13, but he never flew in his life. So that was a birthday gift to him that we said like, okay, we're gonna give you the gift that you get to be on a plane for the first time in your life. And okay, then we of course need a destination. So where are we gonna fly to? We chose a kind of close one. My family is originally from southern Germany, Stuttgart, for those of you who know. So they took a plane, my mom and my cousin, from Stuttgart to Berlin, and I flew in from Stockholm last Friday, and we just met there. We hung out, we had a great time. It was a fantastic weekend. Just always nice to connect with your family, right? And I don't get to see them that often because I live abroad. And even though it's not that far from Stockholm to fly to southern Germany, it's like 2.5 hours if you get a direct flight. It still is a little bit of a pain in the ass to do it. Of course, it's not super cheap. And also if you work, you just don't have the time to like fly home for a weekend usually. And you have other shit going on too, like you have other stuff to do. So we met in Berlin and had an awesome time. Then on Sunday I got to hang out with a friend of mine that I went to high school with, so I got to catch up with him. We actually Sunday night we went to a bar and we drank quite a lot. So not sure if that counts as personal development, probably not. But recently I also embraced this approach of, you know, not being too uptight about improving yourself, because there are so many people out there who are super obsessed with this stuff, at least like in the niche that I'm part of, the personal development self-help guru niche or whatever. There are just so many people who want to optimize every little detail of their life, and they want to hustle as hard as possible, and they have like their 16 hours work days, and then on top of that, they go to the gym at 5 in the morning, and then they read books like for 2 hours every day, and like everything is super structured. And I would say I've tried most of these approaches and they produced results, of course. I mean, if you go to the gym 5 times a week, you get more results than if you just go twice a week. Just simple math. But on the other hand, I felt like it's just too controlling, like it's too structured, and I need to just have the downtime sometimes. I need to also enjoy myself. Like, I don't know, I felt like you can get lost in personal development and you can become so obsessed with it that actually the fun of it disappears, which is to see yourself improve in an area of your life that you are initially maybe not very good at. That's the fun for me. And I kind of see that fun disappear when I just structure everything and I'm super obsessive about like not doing anything wrong and like always doing the best option possible instead of just, you know, taking it easy sometimes. So that's kind of that's kind of the idea behind, like, you know, just meeting up a friend and having a couple of beers on a Sunday night. Just because you can, you know? It's Berlin, fuck it. I mean, if you're in Berlin and you don't go to a bar at least once, then I think you're missing out, because it's just such an amazing city, such an amazing atmosphere in that city. And like it's a little bit rougher there compared to Stockholm. It's a little bit fucked up even. Like here in Stockholm, I think nobody would even get the idea of like going binge drinking on a Sunday night if you have to work the next morning. But it seems like in Berlin that's actually quite normal. So we headed out, and you know, you work on other areas of your life, even though you might like set your health back a little bit if you have a couple of beers. You work on, you know, actually connecting with people, catching up with people, caring about long-term friendships that you've had for many, many years. Like, all these things are important as well, and I think there's simply no reason to neglect that. And it's simply, I mean, I don't know, some people might disagree with that, but for me it's also not the same to just have a coffee together. Like, you talk about different things when you have a coffee and when you have like 3 beers, right? If you sit in a bar and you have a couple of beers, you just get to talk about other stuff than when you like only scratch the surface during a coffee that you have with a buddy. Sorry. I've been rambling a lot here. So that was my Sunday, and then on Monday I flew back to Stockholm. And I did not go to the gym on Monday, even though I should have. So I guess that's like the price you pay for going out late the night before. But I was working a bit on Monday at the airport already, and then on my flight back to Stockholm, which takes like 1.5 hours. And then I would go to work on Tuesday. And I'm working on my startup, so I am a little bit flexible. I don't have a boss breathing down my neck. I can basically go to work whenever I want. Even though I go to a co-working space and people know me there now, I work with a friend there closely. So they are gonna check in on me if I don't show up to work until like 10. People are gonna be concerned, which is actually a good feeling, and it's nice to have that because it also keeps you in check a little bit. I mean, otherwise it's just so tempting to sleep in a little bit longer, especially now in like November in Stockholm. It's gonna be dark until 9 a.m. and then you go out and it's like still not bright and it's rainy. Excuse me. So I have this routine of going to work every day to this co-working space. I showed it to you guys earlier in previous videos here, so you can check it out there. Like, I don't know, a month ago I showed a video about it, and like the lessons I learned as an entrepreneur in the last year, which honestly has been, I think, the toughest year of my life. It's also been the most rewarding and the most fulfilling year of my life. I learned definitely a lot. Like, there are so many lessons that you learn when nobody tells you what to do, but you have to figure it out yourself. But shit, it is tough. So yeah, that's been quite a ride this year, and I just fairly recently found this co-working space that I'm working at now. Before that I was going to like a student library every day, which makes it even harder to work on your stuff and actually be focused, because I mean, there's just all these students around and a lot of them don't actually care. Like, they know they should study, but they don't care so much about what they do, so I don't know, they're just chatting. But at that co-working space where I'm now, it's a lot, the atmosphere is just a lot more productive, because everyone who is there because they are truly passionate about what they do. Like, they truly, deeply care. And you can feel that. Like, you come in and people are having fun, people are chatting, people are joking around, but there's this underlying feeling of just pure dedication to what you want to accomplish. And I love that. I mean, that was the main reason why I started my own business in the first place. I was working in a company before where I never had the feeling that people care about what they do on a truly deep level. And when I say truly deep level, of course people get paid and they do their job and they have their own agenda and they want to improve things within the company. I'm not saying they don't. But for me, like, the people who are truly dedicated are like the people who think about work on a Sunday and who actually love that they do that, who are thinking about things they can do differently when they go back to work on Monday morning. They think about things they want to create. They think about what it is that they want to contribute to a larger project and eventually to the end customer. What is it that they want to give to the world as a gift? And That's a feeling I rarely got at the company where I worked previously, so I quit, started my own thing, and well, here I am. More than a year later, and I'm recording this video on a Sunday, not because anyone forces me to, not because I make money with it, not because like there's any hidden agenda other than the ones that I addressed at the beginning of this video, simply because I truly care and I'm truly passionate about what I'm doing here. Like, I know there's a learning curve. I know I'm not where I want to be yet with this kind of production, with this kind of format, the way I communicate with you guys, with my audience. There's so much more that I can improve on, and I will in the future, but I truly care about what I'm doing. And that's why I'm sitting here on a Sunday morning instead of doing something else that I also could do. I kicked out my girlfriend, kind of. She's gone to a cafe now and she's studying there for an exam that she has next week. And I was like, honey, sorry, I need the apartment. I feel awkward when you're around, so can you please like just get out for 2 hours and I can record my video here and don't feel stifled because you're running around in the background. So that's the kind of dedication I bring to the table for what I'm doing here, and that's exactly the kind of vibe that I get when I go to that co-working space, which is just an amazing feeling. And it's so precious and it's so rare these days that people love their work. Like, have you noticed there's so many people, I don't know how old like the average viewer of mine is. I think it's more like early 20s, maybe not, probably a little bit younger than me. So I'm not sure if you guys are all working. But when you talk to people about their job and about their work, there are so many people who simply don't want to talk about it, or they don't care about it, or they just, you know, they brush it off with like one sentence. And they're like, oh yeah, I'm a data scientist. And you have no idea what that means, and you don't really care, because you realize that the other person who tells you that also doesn't really care. They just want to get a paycheck. And I just feel like that's wrong. Like, I've had arguments about this with friends who disagree, and I've had people telling me like, oh yeah, you know, I do my job well and I get my paycheck and that's all I want out of it. And you know, that's cool. Like, people can do whatever, however they please, as long as they do their job and they actually get paid and they deserve their paycheck and they take care of their family or whatever. So do whatever you feel like. But for me, you just spend so much time of your life working. It's going to be the majority of your life that you spend at your job. So why on earth would you waste it on something that you truly don't care about? Like, why would you settle for just getting a paycheck? I never understood that. And that's not to say that it's easy to find something you love, or that it's easy to actually get paid for what you love. I mean, look at me. Shit, I'm making this video. It's gonna take out 1 year of my life. I'm not gonna get paid for it. YouTube's not paying me shit. Not anyone else either. But I believe that you have to find something that you love, you have to stick with it, and if you become good enough and you reach a wide enough audience, eventually the money issue will come. And yes, that's idealistic, and yes, a lot of people are simply not in the situation that they can think like that and actually then do it and act like that. I know I'm pretty privileged when it comes to that, or at least I was the last year. Now I'm kind of running out of money here, running out of my savings. We can talk a little bit more about that later in the podcast. But you gotta try. I mean, everybody has so much free time, even if you have a full-time job, to figure out what it is that you truly care about and what you love. And also I feel like nowadays we live in a time where there's simply no excuse to not do what you love. Because you can make money basically out of anything. I mean, with the internet, with YouTube, with social media, with WordPress sites and Shopify and whatever, e-commerce. You can always find your niche. You can find like-minded people. However crazy your passion may sound like to the majority of people, there's always a niche of people who care about the same shit you care about. And if you find these people and you can establish yourself within that niche as an expert, and you can actually provide value to the people in that niche, then you have a business. Then you can suddenly make money, and probably you start slowly and probably it takes a long time, but eventually you can live by doing what you love. You can make a living. And the fact that so few people do that is just mind-blowing to me. Like I will never understand that, and I explain to people why I'm doing this startup thing, this business thing, this YouTube thing. They don't get it. They're like, oh yeah, but why wouldn't you just take a normal job at a normal company, get a steady salary? And then I look at them and half of them are miserable, even though they're like in their late 20s only or in their early 30s. And they already complain about their jobs. They already complain that they don't want to get up in the morning and go there. They already say like the best thing about my job is my coffee break with my colleagues. And yeah, again, I'm rambling here, but I never related to this kind of mindset. For me, it was always find what you love first and then do whatever it takes to turn that into your job. And I am aware that this might take a long time. Like, I started this YouTube channel 3 years ago, and until the beginning of this year, I only had like 75 subscribers, which is ridiculous. Like I made 120 videos, I think, until the beginning of this year, and I had 75 subscribers. Like, what on earth made me continue when I got like 3 views on a video I had worked on for hours? It's kind of crazy. You have to be a little bit crazy to do this kind of thing and to be that obsessed about something that you don't get any positive feedback for. Like, shit, not even my parents or my sister would watch my videos. And this year it began to turn around a little bit. And I realized I'm still a super small channel. I realized that 1,450 subscribers or whatever I have today is not a lot at all. But it is a little bit. Like I'm building my circle. I'm building my tribe. I'm finding my niche and I'm building a tribe around me. And yes, eventually I want to make money with this. I want to grow my tribe into a tribe that is big enough to make a living off of. And I know that sounds very capitalistic and not as idealistic as maybe some other people present themselves on YouTube or on social media, but well, I'm giving my free time to this project. I'm providing value, I hope, to my audience. And yes, I want to be compensated for it eventually so that I can do what I love in life and what I want to do with my time on this earth. Which is talking about making money, which is the reason why I published my first ebook last week, or this week actually, which is a huge step for me. Like it's the first time I actually sell a product. And if you haven't checked it out, I highly recommend that you do. I put a lot of work, a lot of effort into it. It took me about 5 months to write it and about 10 years to get to a point where I can talk about these topics with a certain confidence. It took me about 10 years of working on myself, of reading books, of going to coaches, of going to seminars, on just working on this personal development thing. It took me that long. It took me 10 years to get to a point where now I feel pretty confident to talk about certain aspects of it. Obviously not all of it, and the book is actually pretty general. It's called the 10 Powerful Principles of Personal Growth. So I want it to be sort of a foundation for anyone who is interested in personal development but is just starting out. So I was writing it with the idea in mind of, okay, if I was to write a book for myself when I was 20 years old, and I started out figuring life out and trying to figure out who I am and figuring out what I want to do with my life, like all these big questions that you have when you're young and you're moving out from home and maybe you're studying or starting to work. I wanted to write a book for my past self, so to say, and all of you guys out there who still feel like you're at that stage. I wanted to share what I learned over those 10 years, and I distilled it in 10 principles that I think are really relevant to excel in life and basically get out of life what you want to get out of it. So if you haven't checked it out, please go and check it out. There's going to be a link down in the description of this video. I really put my heart and soul into it, and I really hope that it can help some of you guys to take it to the next level. Like, take your life to the next level, maybe be a little bit clearer about your path in life, figure things out for yourself. It's definitely not a book that you read and then you're like, okay, I'm done with this. I have it all figured out. I am the master of personal development now. I am where I want to be in life. Definitely not like that. You have to actually apply the principles in this book. You have to keep working on yourself. Nobody can do that for you. Even if people make you pay hundreds of dollars or thousands of dollars when you go to coaches and seminars, and they tell you like, oh, we're the magic pill and we're going to fix that problem for you that you have, and then your life is going to be amazing. I'm not telling you that, and I can tell you that this book is not going to provide that, but I do think it's a good guideline. So make sure you check it out. I really think it's worth the $10 that I'm charging for it, considering what I had to go through to actually be able to write that book and to share that knowledge with you. Yeah, shit, last 10 years have been pretty wild. And I'm not regretting a single moment of it, even though it's been tough sometimes. All right, talking about books and the books that I've read over the last 10 years, I also want to use this kind of more podcast format to talk about books that I'm reading, because in the past I made videos about books that I thought were valuable to people, but I just noticed that it's, I don't know, I mean, if we're honest, it's kind of boring to watch a video of a guy talking about a book he read, and like giving you a summary of it, or like telling you the points that he learned from it or whatever. So I'm not going to do that here. I'm just going to like show you what I'm reading this week, and then it's up to you if you buy it or not. Maybe I give you a brief summary, maybe not. But I do think reading is an important part of, or should be an important part of, anyone's weekly routine, hopefully daily routine. If you have been a subscriber of this channel for a while, you know that I love reading, that I love talking about reading, that I made videos about how to read more, how to read better, how to actually remember the things that you read. All these things are things that I think about just because I get so much out of reading a book instead of going on YouTube and watching a video about it or reading like a bullet point summary of it. It's simply not the same thing. And if you get into the habit of reading and you do it for a couple of months, you will actually know what I'm talking about, because you will feel your brain change, and the way you handle information and the way you save information in your brain will change if you read consistently. Okay, long introduction to just showing you this book here. It's called Nudge. Hope you can see it if I hold it like that. All right, got it. It's by Richard Thaler and Cass Sunstein. Sorry. And just a little bit of background information about that. Richard Thaler is a Nobel Prize winner in economics. I think he won it 2017 for his work in behavioral economics, which is a field and a subject that I'm super interested in. It's basically the overlap between psychology on the one hand and economics on the other hand. And I'm just fascinated by that topic. Like I studied economics and business administration in my bachelor, and then I wasn't sure what to do for my master. I was, going back and forth because there's so many options and a lot of them sounded interesting, but then I felt like, actually it's like too much about numbers, and I'm not a numbers guy. Like I love talking, I love connecting with people, I love interaction. I'm not the kind of guy who like gets off on an Excel sheet. So I was trying to find something within the economic field that suits me. And then I learned about behavioral economics, and I just knew that this is a perfect fit for me. And I did a master in behavioral economics in Maastricht, which is a city in the Netherlands. And it was a great experience because I learned so much about the irrational side of human behavior in economic situations. This is pretty much what this field is about. Like when you study economics and you're like a first year, second year, a bachelor student in economics, you always learn about this principle of homo economicus, which means that the person that we're thinking about in this scenario, this economic scenario, is fully rational, and he will always make rational decisions, and this includes, for example, that he prefers getting more money over getting less money. Like he always prefers to be better off in general. And at the beginning, that makes sense. And you're like, well, yeah, okay, that's how I think. Like I always want more. I always want to be better off. People are like that. But then you get more and more into economics and you dive deeper and you start realizing, well, wait a second, actually humans don't exactly work like that. There's so many situations where people are completely irrational and it doesn't seem to make any sense. And you cannot explain it with like standard economic assumptions. So that's where behavioral economics comes in, because they combine economic principles with psychology and how humans are irrational. And in this book, Nudge, there's a lot of examples of how these principles and these insights that were accumulated over the last couple of decades, how these are translated into public policy these days, and how we all can benefit from these kind of insights that were gathered there. So here in Nudge, it's more like, it's very like practical. A lot of things are very, very applied, and you don't even see like the economic part necessarily behind it when you read about it. So just to give you an example, like probably you're aware, if you're a guy, nowadays if you go into public toilets and you go to the pissoir and you take a leak there, then oftentimes nowadays there are like flies, like little black flies painted into the pissoir. And I started realizing that this is becoming more and more a couple of years ago, and I was like, why is that there? And in this book they explain it, that an economist, I think in the Netherlands, figured out that when basically when guys have a target to aim at, they just splash around a lot less. Because apparently it was a big problem, like all this piss getting on the floor, because guys are not able to fucking aim at the pissoir correctly. But if you give them a target to aim at, and this is real, then you reduce like the splashing by, I don't know, almost 50%, I think. So this is just one example of how you can nudge people to do something that is good for them and also good for the general public. And for anyone who's interested in that at all, and I really feel like, why wouldn't you be interested in that? I find it super fascinating. Get this book, read about nudging, read it from one of the leading guys in that field, Richard Thaler, won a Nobel Prize for it. It's highly entertaining as well to just see how dumb we are as species that we are not able to make the right decisions, even though we often know it's rationally the right decisions. Another example is a very popular one, organ donors. Organ donors in many countries have to specifically accept that they want, like they have to make a cross or whatever, that they want to donate their organs in case they die. And that leads to the fact that a lot of people don't donate their organs, and there's always a shortage of organs. But if you just turn it around, that you have to make a cross if you don't want to donate your organs in case you die, then suddenly the donation skyrocketed. So just making this shift in what's the default option leads to people completely changing their opinions on such an important matter as donating your organs after you die, which is super bizarre. I mean, you would think people have a made-up opinion about these important questions, and they will go with that opinion no matter what, right? It shouldn't matter if the cross is made at, okay, you will donate your organs in case you die, or in case you die, you don't donate your organs. But yeah, people are like that. People just go with the default option oftentimes. So this is another nudge that you can apply, and they also use that for like retirement savings, for example, what kind of default options you choose in your retirement plan, all these different things that can ultimately change the life of people for the better. So that's what I'm reading right now, just what I'm interested in. Also because, again, this is what I want to do with this channel. This is what I want to provide for other people, making their lives better through whichever way possible. I mean, if it needs nudging, that's fine, but also if it needs like somebody giving it to you straight, really telling you to the face where you're fucking up, that's nice too. Whatever it takes, right? Okay, so that's what I'm reading right now, halfway through. Probably next week I can already start a new book. I don't know, you're gonna see next Sunday, I guess, because this is gonna be a weekly occasion now that I'm doing these kind of videos, and you can check them out or not, whichever you prefer. I actually made a list of what else I want to talk about. Let's see. The idea behind the podcast, check. What I read right now, check. What I am working on, yeah, kind of check. The ebook, check it out. Go get it, $10 only, totally worth it. That's what I've been working on with my company a lot. And then in the future I want to advertise it more and reach an even wider audience than I reach with this YouTube channel. And then, yeah, personal development stuff. Okay, I guess that's the last point for this week's podcast. This is a good topic to end it with. Just a little bit of what I try to implement into my weekly routine to like better myself in different areas. So one thing that I'm doing is just trying to meditate every single day. And I've been doing that regularly the first half of this year, I would say, and then I kind of fell off the wagon just because it was summer break and I went back home and I was traveling a little bit, and it's so difficult for me to keep these healthy routines as soon as I'm out of my like normal weekly or daily routine where I go to work and I come home and I cook, and I know exactly when I go to the gym, I know exactly when I read, I know exactly when I meditate. All these things have a certain place and a certain time in my routine, and as soon as this routine gets kind of mixed up, it's difficult to keep those healthy habits going. So I fell off the wagon after the summer, and now I started again with the meditation because I know that it's good for me. I know that it helps me, especially because I work a lot in front of my laptop. I sit in front of a screen I would say at least like 10 hours every day on a working day. So I know that I need this downtime of meditation. And usually it's not a lot, it's just 10 minutes. But even that is kind of hard to implement when you first start out, and it's not a routine yet, it's not a habit yet. But I've been using this app called Headspace, which I really recommend. You get 10 free sessions at the beginning, and after that it's you have to pay for it. I think 150 crowns, so like 15 bucks or something per month. But I think it's totally worth it. And I've been meditating with that, trying to get back into it. The reason why I started with it again, other than that I know that it's good for me, is that I'm doing a course about happiness and well-being, like an online course. It's on Coursera. I can put a link in the description below so you guys can check it out, because it's completely for free and it's fantastic. I think it covers a lot of different aspects of personal development and I don't know if I can call it mental health, but mental well-being and ultimately happiness. So this professor at Yale University gives this course about happiness, and they actually just filmed the lecture that she was giving live to students there. And it turned out, they put it on this Coursera website, you can access this for free, and it turned out that this is year after year the most popular course at Yale. All in all, like considering all the courses and all the different fields and subjects, this is the most popular one, which I think says a lot about the state of our students, first of all, but state of our society in general, that there's so many people who are unhappy, so many people who don't feel satisfied, and they're looking for answers, first of all, and they're looking for things that they can tweak and things they can improve. And one thing she talks about in this happiness course is meditation. Meditation has a profound impact on your happiness and your overall well-being. And it's such an easy thing, but just because it is such an easy thing, a lot of people don't do it. Like they think it will make them happier to buy a new pair of shoes or a new iPhone, when in fact all they would need to actually feel better is to sit quietly in a room for 10 minutes every day, which is completely for free and doesn't take any effort, or I guess it takes a lot of effort for some people, but originally the idea of sitting there silently by yourself is easy, right? So part of this course was in the end that you had to choose one of the different habits that the professor is talking about that can actually improve your happiness and your well-being. And you have to do it for 4 weeks straight, every single day. And you kind of have to report back what the effects were and if you actually felt better after doing that for 4 weeks. And I chose meditation. So I've been meditating for pretty much 4 weeks now, every single day. And I can honestly say that it helps me a lot. Like I just feel calmer, I feel more focused, even when I'm working on my screen, even when I'm talking to people, when I'm having a conversation. I feel more grounded, if that makes any sense. Like with that I mean, I feel this sort of inner peace, and I don't feel like I constantly have to like put myself out there and talk and express myself. I can just be there and be calm and be centered and be satisfied in the moment without doing too much. And that feeling is the strongest after having meditated, but it really lasts for the entire day, pretty much. I think ideally I would even meditate twice a day, but I haven't gotten around to that yet. Maybe in the future I will do that. But for anyone who's interested in meditation, do it by yourself. It's the simplest thing ever. If you do it consistently. or get the app Headspace if you want some guided meditation, or if you actually want to meditate to get certain specific results, which you can get through that app. And then also check out that happiness course, if that's something you're into, if that's something you're interested in, maybe if that's something you're struggling with. I've been super interested in that topic of happiness in general lately. And actually this book, Nudge, was talked about in this happiness course. Excuse me. Like the lecturer, the professor, the Yale professor, she talks a lot about different books that you can read to learn more about happiness, and Nudge is one of the main ones. So that, I knew about this book before, but that actually like nudged me or pushed me over the edge to just order it and read it now. So if that's a field that you're interested in, happiness, mental well-being, then definitely check out this course, and I'm sure that you will get a lot out of it and a lot of inspiration of things to follow up on with that topic. Was that a correct English sentence? I'm not sure. You get what I mean. Okay, so that's what I've been working on: meditation, going to the gym, reading regularly, working on my company. Pretty much same old, same old. I am a huge believer in routines. I think routines are really what gets you results, because you have to do the things that you want to do or that you want to better yourself at consistently. You cannot just do it once a month. You cannot just do it once a week if you really want to become good. So that's another reason why I want to do more videos and I want to talk more in front of a camera, because I want to become really good at it. So I have to do it more than just once a week. And yeah, that's why I try to read every day. I try to meditate every day. I go to work 5 times a week, and then on the weekend I also work a little bit. I make videos like that. I edit my videos. I plan new topics for future videos and content. I work on some other stuff for my company. So I'm always like having it in the back of my head. I go to the gym like 3 times a week. All these different things are pretty common routines, I would say. Nothing special. But there is a compound effect. It adds up over time. And that's what you see when somebody just decides to go to the gym 3 times a week. You won't see results for like the first 5, 6, 7 months maybe. Unless he really goes hard. And that's why a lot of people get discouraged. But if you then really stick it out and you keep going and you keep doing it, and you just make it a habit, then after 2 years you run into people you haven't seen in a while and they are like, well, damn, you got shredded. You look amazing, dude. And you haven't even noticed the difference because it's such a gradual process, right? But I think that's really the power of routines and the power of habits. That the process is super slow, but it adds up and you eventually get to a point where you never pictured yourself 2 years earlier. Just because you cannot get these kind of results in the short term. You cannot say like, okay, I want to educate myself in a certain field and now I'm going to order like 10 books about it on Amazon and I'm going to read those and then I know everything about it. You have to like ease into it. You have to read every day, ideally. And the same with gym, it's the same with relationships, it's the same with work. Like, do it and do it and do it and do it over and over and over again, and eventually you get to a point where people are looking at your skills amazed, or whatever it is you want to accomplish, and they cannot even wrap their head around how you have gotten to that place, like how that's even possible to be at a place like that. Which I guess is a good point to end this. And again, kind of the idea that I had with this video, like, and this kind of podcast-ish thing that I'm doing here in this video, that I listened to Bill Burr, this comedian that I mentioned at the beginning, and I was like, how can anyone be so fucking good at what they do? How can anyone be that skilled? And how can anyone make it look that effortless as he does? And yeah, the answer is he's done it for like 25 years. So If I keep this up for another 25 years, then I guess I'm gonna be at his level maybe. Who knows? Let's see what the future brings. But this was a great experience. I kind of enjoyed the non-structured format. Not gonna edit this video a lot either, so you just have to live with that. I'm gonna keep all the ramblings in the middle, even though I know that sometimes I, got a little bit off track and I went kind of all over the place, talking about everything and nothing, but, well, it's a learning curve, right? Anyway, I appreciate that you guys tuned in, and shit, if you've been listening until now, then that's really impressive, I gotta say. So thank you guys a lot for tuning in, for listening to my rambling thoughts, and for checking out my videos every time I upload. I really appreciate it. I mean, it's what keeps me going doing this. So thank you guys, and see you in the next video. Have a good Sunday.